And welcome back to another Java tutorial. It's Kelvin again from Firehawk Productions. And in the last tutorial I taught you guys how to create an object. And in this case we created a restaurant object as seen in this class right here. And just a review from last time, we had to create a constructor which allowed us to construct the object, basically. So, what I told you guys was, remember when we did scanners and arrays, we had to write, okay, say for the scanner, we had to write a scanner, and the variable name for the scanner, and then you make it equal a new instance of the scanner, and same thing with the array. Well, this is basically how you create an object. Whenever you see a new, it means you're creating a new instance of the object. So, what we did last time was we created an empty constructor right here. And what we did was just create the object. Okay, now the object doesn't have anything. The object has no attributes. It's just, an object that's created. So what I want to do in this tutorial is teach you guys how to add attributes to your objects. What I mean by that is I'll show you in a sec. Okay, so a restaurant is not a restaurant without a name, right? And remember, if you watched my tutorial review, I taught you guys how to use global variables. And global variables means they're variables that can be seen by all methods, and you usually place them right after you write public class restaurant. So you would write it somewhere here. So as I said, a restaurant is not a restaurant without a name. So what we want to do is give our restaurant object a name. And just giving you guys some hints, this is not the name, this is just a variable name that represents the new restaurant you created. So let's write a name for our restaurant. So what we have to do first is we need to specify a global variable that defines the restaurant name. So in order to define global variables, you always write it right after this public class restaurant. Okay, so we want the name, right? And the name is going to be in the form of a string. So string restaurant name. Okay, that's all you have to do. You don't have to make it equal anything. Okay. So once you do that, in order to add the name, in order to make Kelvin's restaurant have a name, you have to put it inside the constructor. So in our constructor, first we have to say, we have to give it a parameter, and the parameter is, we want to give it a name. So I'm going to add in a parameter that says string name, okay? And then what we want to do inside here, inside the constructor, is define the restaurant name using this name right here. Okay, and I'll show you what it means in just a sec. So I'm just going to type out the code and you can follow along. So restaurant name equals name. Okay. And Java here is giving me an error because when you say new restaurant, it looks for a constructor that has this constructor in it. Sorry, it looks for a constructor that has these parameters, and in this case the parameter section is empty, so right now it's empty. So what you need to do is specify a name. See, string name. So I'm just gonna say Kelvin's restaurant. There, now the error is gone because this constructor here, restaurant, requires you to put a string. And I put a string of Kelvin's restaurant. And then inside the constructor, what happened was the restaurant name, so this global variable, restaurant name, now equals to whatever I typed in this parameter here, which as you can see is Kelvin's restaurant. So now if I do something like system.out.println, just a sec, and I go to Kelvin's restaurant name, and I'll show you what this means, but just run it first. Press OK. It'll say Kelvin's restaurant because that's the name of my restaurant. And what I did here was, well, you know what system.out.println is. It just prints out something on the screen. And then I put Kelvin's restaurant name. So Kelvin's restaurant is a variable. As you can see, it's highlighted here. It's the variable that represents the restaurant. And what do I want to look for inside Kelvin's restaurant? Well, I want to look for the restaurant name. So what happens is when I create a new instance of the restaurant called Kelvin's restaurant, I gave it a string name of Kelvin's restaurant right here. And then so it goes back to the constructor and it looks for this parameter. So I wrote Kelvin's restaurant, and then it's going to make the global variable restaurant name equal Kelvin's restaurant. So that when I do Kelvin's restaurant name, it will look for restaurant name variable, which is inside this constructor. And what does it equal? Well, it equals Kelvin's restaurant. That's why I printed out Kelvin's restaurant. Now, this is just one example of a string. You can have as many attributes as you want. So let's say I want my restaurant to have a rating. All right, then a rating is an integer between 1 to 5 for my case. So I'm just going to do int rating. And you basically just initialize the variable, but you don't put a value yet. And you want to put the value inside the constructor. So again, I'm going to create another parameter. You just do comma, and I do int restaurant. Okay, no, you're not. I'm going to name it restaurant rating. Okay, restaurant rating with a capital R for rating. And then in here, I want to put int rating. All right, and same thing. I want my global variable restaurant rating to equal the rating that I defined inside the parameter. So notice how Java is giving me an error here again, because I only specified one of the parameters, which is the string. You see here, string name. But it also needs me to specify the rating. So what I need to is give it a rating. So all I can do is say, my restaurant's the best. I want to give it a rating of 5. So I do comma 5. And so it looks for a constructor that has a string and an integer, which is this one, a string and an integer. And then, did I spell it wrong? Restaurant rating. Oh yeah, I did spell it wrong. restaurant rating. Okay, there you go. And then now if I also want to print out the restaurant rating, so Kelvins restaurant rating, then I should get 5. Perfect. So, to make it more appealing, you can do something like this. Kelvin's restaurant has a rating of, alright, and then you say, my restaurant is called, okay, print this out. You say my restaurant is called Kelvin's Restaurant. Kelvin's Restaurant has a rating of 5. Good. Okay, and you can experiment with different types of attributes for the object. You can have as many attributes as you want. For example, you can say, you can have a boolean too. So you can have boolean has buffet. Okay, and you can probably guess what this does. This boolean has buffet variable is going to define whether or not my restaurant has a buffet. And I want to say yes, my restaurant does have a buffet. So in the parameter here, I'm going to add an extra. I'm going to say boolean restaurant buffet. Whatever, you can name this whatever you want. All right, and inside the constructor, I'm gonna make has buffet equals restaurant buffet. Now, okay, Java's gonna give me an error here again because I need to add in the boolean condition. Sorry, not the condition, the parameter. So I'm going to say it does have a buffet. So since a boolean can only be true or false, I can only put true or false. In this case, I'm going to put true. And so if I put true here, then Java looks back at the constructor and says boolean restaurant buffet is true because I put true here. And this is also true. And now the global variable has buffet is equal to true. So if I do something like if has buffet, and I'm sure I taught you guys. Oh, sorry. Okay. So if Kelvin's restaurant dot has buffet, so what this means is, okay, it looks into Kelvin's restaurant and it looks into has buffet variable, which we set to true. So what this means is if Kelvin's restaurant has buffet is true, then I'm going to print out system.out.println Kelvin's restaurant has a buffet, has a tasty buffet. Okay. Or if it doesn't, then I say else system.out.println Kelvin's restaurant does not have a buffet. Sad face. Okay. So now let's save and run this program. It says my restaurant is called Kelvin's Restaurant because it printed out Kelvin's Restaurant dot restaurant name. Then it printed out Kelvin's Restaurant has a rating of 5 because I put my rating as 5 from here. And then it says Kelvin's restaurant has a tasty buffet, meaning that Kelvin's restaurant has buffet equals true. So it does have a buffet, so therefore it prints out Kelvin's restaurant has a tasty buffet. So this is all I'm going to teach you for attributes right now. You can play around with all different kinds of attributes. You can have, like I said, you can have as many as you want. You can, make up whatever you want. So try out different things. And that's going to be all for this video. In the next video, I don't know what I'm teaching you yet. Probably more on objects. So we'll see about that. Anyways, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and see you all next video.